Hey, Chris, are you here?
Yep.
Welcome, everybody. Chris is here to welcome to Backstage with Jamie K. Bates. This episode is so special to me. Honestly, I don't even know how to title it because it's just a super real and raw conversation between the person in my life that I am honestly the most real and raw with, and that is our founding pastor, Pastor Lisa Collins. Pastor Steve, you guys have probably heard us mention a lot. Lisa and I have a really special, deep relationship that you're about to get a glimpse into. So she's here to talk all the things. I think I'm going to title this All the Things because I think that whether you're single, whether you're broken, whether you're searching for freedom, whether you're a parent, whether you're an empty nester, we've got it all for you right here. So enjoy this episode between me and my mentor, pastor, friend, all the things, Lisa Collins. Well, you have your favorite audience today, my mama bear. You're so many things to me.
Oh, it's so sweet.
I've got Lisa Collins here, everybody. I tell everybody, well, when we speak publicly, I'm like, You've seen me through 4 surgeries, at least Dustin through 2 surgeries. You might know the best and the worst about me.
Oh, I see the best.
You do. That's why.
I see the best.
You do see the best. I really know that too. I know that you see the best in to have somebody in my life, I could cry just talking about it, because to have somebody in my life who knows the worst and always sees the best is just priceless. And you've been that for me for what now? 12 years?
Is it 12?
I think it's 12 years.
You were just a little baby when you came.
I was a baby.
And I was a baby too.
Little did we know what was coming for us.
Oh my goodness, I know.
Oh, we
Aren't
were
you glad
both
we don't
babies.
know everything that's coming?
Oh. I couldn't be more happy that we didn't know what was coming. Oh, but I just am so grateful for you coming on. And every time I have somebody on, there's a theme. And with you, I'm like, what is the theme? Our entire lives. But you have so much wisdom in marriage and parenting and ministry and in life that an hour and a half is not going to do us justice. But will you start at the beginning and just tell us a little bit about your life, childhood, growing up, meeting Pastor Steve?
Okay.
And everybody will know from the intro who Pastor Steve is.
Well, and I'll have to tell you, Mary and Steve is just the greatest blessing in my life other than coming to know the Lord for real. And I met him at church where there was a lot of pain growing up there, and I met him there. But you can look back, hindsight, and you can see your life and you can see things that you went through and how God, He wove them all together to make something beautiful. And so when I was born, I just turned, well, maybe I don't have to tell my age. We don't have to tell our age and our weight, right? But I was born and I was adopted 2 days later by parents that really wanted to have a baby. My mom had tried for over 20 years to have a baby and had really just given up, but they were trying to adopt. They got a call and they got me.
Wow.
And they were thrilled. And, I was raised in a Christian home. I went to church every time the door was open.
They had you there.
Yes. And I came to know the Lord at a very early age. And I loved Him. But, there's just growing up. I think everyone does their best when they're trying to raise their children. And, we all have issues and dysfunctions. And there was some dysfunction there. And, I don't know anything about my birth mother. So, you have things get passed down from generation. And I didn't know anything being passed down to me looking back. But
you didn't know her name, nothing.
I knew nothing about her. And I can tell you a really cool story later about God kind of healing my heart with some of that. But, I just didn't, I found very early on that I was taking on the role of being an adult. I was trying to be all things the peacemaker. And, very early on, there was a spirit of rejection and abandonment. I'm not saying everybody that is adopted has that, but I can look
felt
back.
that.
I can look back now and see that. I felt shame from being adopted. Didn't know why. It's just like, I guess you think you don't want to be different from anybody.
Yeah.
My parents were older, and so people at times, they thought that they were my grandparents. So that was hard. But I just quickly I'm telling you, I was a little girl and I was cleaning to try to help my mom. I would try to cook things. I was just trying to be a peacemaker in our home because there was just, times anger and just frustration. So I was trying to be the peacemaker between the family. And so just very early on, there was so much fear. I became very much a perfectionist. And I viewed the Lord that you had to be perfect. Like I never understood the power, the Father's love. Like now Steve, totally grip opposite. He never doubted one day the love of the Father, but not me, And so I'm this perfectionist, and I take it into every area of my life. I mean, my mother would bring people in to show them my room. I'm little, and open my drawers to show how, like, I had everything perfect. And so that fed, and I would go to school and I would make straight A's, but I would do the extra
grades.
credit so I could get an A plus, because I learned that's going to be good. I remember kids saying very hurtful things at times, being very hurt, calling you names and things that they were traumatic for me. And of course, when you're young like that, you don't know things are traumatic.
Oh, you don't know you're being traumatized when you're being traumatized.
You don't understand what's happening. And we didn't really talk about things. So I would just kind of shove it down. And we would go to church, and later on in church, it was very painful for me. My sister had a great group of friends that stayed for everything. And I had some friends there, but they didn't stay for everything. So I just felt lonely there. And like, I just didn't have anybody to be with. And there was just so much fear there. And I think the performance went on and on and on. And so I remember being called fat and ugly and things like that really, they stick with you. A lot of just silly, fearful situations happened, and just fear of a lot of things, of being left, when I was in first grade, I was 6 years old. It was really a traumatic experience for me. I was left. We had these huge buildings. I grew up in a downtown church, and my mother worked there. And so you had to be really careful because bums would come in off the streets. And when I was 5 years old, I was sitting there, and a man came in with a knife and stole my teacher's purse. So there were some strange things that happened that were scary. And then when I was 6 years old, now my parents, they taught Sunday school to sixth graders. And I'm in first grade. They stayed till every child's parent came. And I remember being left. Everybody left, like the teacher, and they're like, okay, the superintendent, everybody left on the floor. I was the only one, 6 years old, sitting on a bench on the 7th floor of a building by myself. And just traumatic things happening, which led into more fear.
Fed the fear.
Oh, yeah, fed the fear. And so then, like I said, name calling, or you're fat. And so you wanted to look good and feel good. And I remember by the time 7th grade, I was kind of heavy. And in between the summer of 7th grade and 8th grade, I decided I was going to lose some weight. So I lost like 17 pounds. I had been wearing glasses. I got contacts. And I'm telling you, my world changed. I went from the ugly duckling to the swan. I got a boyfriend. I became popular. And so it just fed more. It fed into
more,
the performance
into all of it.
Of doing all that.
Man.
And so, of course, I'm going to do everything that I can to be affirmed. I'm going to go the extra mile. And that's hard to live that way. I felt like even when I went to church, we had the envelopes. Did you read your Bible daily? Did you tithe? Did you all these kind of things? So I just saw so much you had to do things.
Check the list.
Oh, always checking a box. Always doing the right thing. I was always doing the right thing. And I felt like at times, I was told that I was shy, and I was told that I was too sensitive. And I have my sister who is very fun and outgoing. And so I would look at that and think that she had the good personality and I had the bad personality. And so I was comparing myself. I remember like there would be choir tours and things to go on. And I knew my sister was going to go, and I knew financially they would pay for both of us, but I knew it'd be a strain. So here I am acting like an adult.
You didn't want to.
And I would say, oh, I don't want to go. And then people would say that I didn't want to be involved. So I just felt left out. It was just back and forth, this kind of turmoil. But I was the kind, like, you fake it till you make it. And what else do you do? I don't know what else to do with things that happen. And so I just pressed through and keep going on. I graduate high school with honors, and all kinds of things. Like, of course, I would be doing that. I go off to college and I'm very involved. I love being with people. I worked really hard, I think, to be popular. Some ways you think about the things that you do so that people will like you. And I wasn't doing it in a bad way. I just think there's just a lot of performance with everything. And I achieved high success there. I was in the homecoming chorus, first runner-up 3 years. I was president of we had social clubs. I was on all the different, I did so many activities and leadership in so many different things. And then I just had some really traumatic things happen there that just were awful. And all I wanted to do was get out of there, graduate and be done with it. And it just, but it's kind of like you think you leave one place, you're going to be fine. The bottom line is, wherever you go, your issues are still there, and it goes with me. So
it comes with us.
I'm
everywhere.
like a trash compactor that it just had things pushed down. And at some point, it's gonna come out.
Yep.
Oh, and so,
That's so true. It's so real. Yeah.
I'm finding that I didn't even know what things are like, what's going on, but I had like an eating disorder. But I was trying to control things to look a certain way, and I was shameful, fearful, hated myself, at times just wanted to die, fell into depression, just so many harmful things, condemnation.
This is like 20s, in your 20s?
Yes, but even, the early 20s, yes. And then, I'm here, I get a job and everything, and I meet Steve, and all my life, I dreamed of getting married, and I meet this wonderful man who I don't know what it was, why I thought, the Cinderella movie, you meet someone and they, the happily ever after story, they always say they lived happily ever after. And so for some reason, I just thought I was going to get married and live
and be happily
forever.
Ever after.
Yeah. It was just like, we're going to get married, say I do, and then go and have
everything's going to be fixed.
Amazing life.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just quickly found that, here we are. I'm so very early on in our marriage. I'm overwhelmed with life. I've got a job that I don't like, and there's extreme pressure. I'm pressured to be this perfect pastor's wife, youth pastor's wife, to be at everything. And I've got some women that aren't very nice to me when I'm there. I am struggling with an eating disorder, but I didn't even know what it was called. There was no term back then.
There were no words for it then. Yeah.
And so I just thought, I'm like crazy. You can't talk about this. Nobody knows. And you had to be perfect in the situation I was in. I felt that I had to be perfect. I felt rejected, full of shame, self-hatred. I was lonely, afraid, trying to please everyone. And I did not even understand the depth of my brokenness. And poor Steve, we like to say we were broken. I was broken and he was clueless. And it's the truth. He didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do with me.
You. Yeah.
And it was challenging. It was so challenging because there was just so much pain from things growing up, and my dad struggled with anger. So I did see the Heavenly Father as being angry. So it's kind of like he was out to get me, and I had to do everything right.
Yep.
So I look back now and I'm like, I'm not even the same person.
Sure.
But, you think, what's wrong with me? Why did somebody give me up? Why, and then when you have certain things that happen in your family, like, God, did you not love me? Why would you allow me to go through that? Or things happen in your life. And so instead of looking and understanding it's the enemy that did it, it's like, well, God, you weren't there for me. And I didn't grow up understanding. I didn't know anything about the power of the Holy Spirit or strongholds and spiritual warfare. So basically, I look back, I'm like, it's the grace of God that I just kept going, because there were times where I did really want to die. I mean, I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live. Put it that way.
That honestly makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And so, I was, by the time Steve got me, on the outside, I looked so together, and I worked really hard. And I was a sweet person. I always loved people.
For sure.
Encourage people. But on the inside, I was very tormented and full of pain and full of fear, so many fears of everything. And then you get married and you bring all this and you kind of dump it on this clueless husband of yours who didn't struggle with anything like that.
And he no frame of reference for anything you brought in.
No. And he understood, understood the Father's love. So he didn't struggle with that. He always knew who he was. He didn't compare himself. I mean, he had some hard times in life, but there were just really some crazy things that happened, and I just didn't know what to do with them. Couldn't talk about him.
That was what I was
going to down.
That's what I was going to ask you was there a moment of time where you really showed your insides to him?
Yes. I mean, I finally told him, I think.
Because I bet you were perfect for a good long while before.
Probably wasn't too long where he realized,
that's how trustworthy
goodness,
he was.
What have I gotten? I'm sure there were some things that happened early on. He probably was thinking, oh my goodness. I can remember a point I knew that he was questioning, like, there was a thought in his mind one time, like, oh my goodness, like, maybe I shouldn't have married her. And I felt bad for him. Like, I feel bad for you that you married me. I feel bad that you're stuck with me. So there was this
is what you're carrying in
torment.
Even after marriage, you're tormented. I feel bad for you that you married me.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there.
Yes. And I'm the kind of person.
I've been there. Yeah.
Yes. I want to go deep.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a surface person.
No, you're not.
And so I really want to share, but you have to be able to trust to share.
Yes.
And I'm the kind of person, like with Steve, is like, oh, I ate that brownie. Or I confess everything. We know everything about each other. Yeah. So there was a point in time where I had to start sharing this, because I'm like, I think I'm crazy. I think I'm going crazy, because what do I do with all of this? There was no terminology. I was in a church where you couldn't show, in a position, really, you couldn't show any weakness, because if they saw blood, the sharks were going to come, and people just said things, did things, were very hurtful. And so, and I was just, I loved Steve. I loved the Lord, but I did not know what to do. And I believed the Bible had all the answers, but I had no clue of
how to.
Yes.
This is so real and so accurate to, I think, how so many people feel. Love God. Love the person I'm with. Love my kids.
Yes.
I really, really do. But there's something wrong.
Yes.
Inside of me. And a lot of us feel, I have not felt this because of you in my life, and a couple other, maybe a couple other very trustworthy people. Side note, Lisa always tells me, what is it you always tell me? I'm a vault.
I'm a what? Oh, well, yeah, I am about that. Yeah,
that like, you're a vault for me.
Throw the key away.
Yep, she throws the key away with anything I tell her. That's what it is. Anything I tell her, I just throw in the key away. Jamie, don't you worry, the key's thrown away. But so many people don't have that. So how did you work out of that place? Because it's one thing to just be like a meth addict on the streets finding God, and all of a sudden like being like, oh my goodness, there's this whole new world, and it's clear what's wrong with me. For the people who know something's wrong, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like inside, but outside, everything is.
It looks like everything's all together.
Like everything's all together. Where does that journey to wholeness start? I'm genuinely
I'm still
wanting to know this for myself.
I'm still in a process.
Yes.
I'm still in a process. I mean, I think
that's a great first point.
Yes. I mean,
it's process.
Yes. I mean, people might look, and I think too, I put so much pressure on myself. I've learned so much. I'll always tell you, don't worry about that. I was way worse at that. I did that way worse, or don't, but I give grace to people because I made mistakes, and I needed that grace, and I don't want to judge people, and I felt judged by things. And
Yep.
people love to see someone who's done well or has chosen right things. They love to see someone fall. They love to see someone I don't know. It makes you feel better. Sometimes people feel better about themselves. I would try to teach my kids this. Like, when someone's putting you down, it's because they don't feel good about themselves, and they want to feel better about themselves. And I think people do that. I think women can do that to, like, compare, or you want to feel better than someone else.
Gossip.
Yes. But I just don't, it's not, for me, it's never been a one and done. I think one of the biggest things that I could say, and it's not very spiritual, but
Say it.
Don't quit.
Yeah.
I mean,
that might be the most spiritual thing of all. Actually, don't quit.
I think about how many times I've wanted to quit, and I'm like, I quit. But then I'm like, okay, but I can't quit, because I have a fighter in me that I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going. Yeah. And, I may take a day off or something, or have a good old self-pity party, but I'm getting back up, and I'm not going to stay down. So I have always had that. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going, whether it was performance driven to do part of it or what, but I'm not going to quit. But, I learned that some of the things that I would do is that I would always have worship music on. And back then, I'm like, you had to put a CD in, or tape, I guess what was it? A
cassette?
Cassette to listen. But I had worship music going all the time. And now, things that I do, I can tell you things that I do now, practice all the time. But back then, I didn't really know what I was doing. But
so back then, you didn't know what to do. And you had no one you could talk to besides Pastor Steve, right?
I literally always wanted a mentor. Yeah. And I never had a mentor. I've been that for other people.
Yes,
I think one of the things that I've learned the most is how to treat people by the way things that happened to me. I didn't want to do that to other people. So you learn a lot by things that happen to you, and how you don't want to treat people, and how you don't want them to feel. And so, I tried to be careful with my words, and I love very hard.
Yeah.
And so, I was never wanting to quit, but it was I think it was just a long journey. I would read my Bible, but really before I understood about spiritual warfare, I'd read my Bible, and it's kind of like, okay, check that off the list.
Yeah.
And
it was another performance thing.
Yeah. I would get some things done. I was supposed to do that, but I don't know that, I was necessarily getting that. But anytime you put the word of God in you, it doesn't return void. So it was getting in there. No matter what, but it was getting in there, even though I didn't know how to do it. And I would visualize being free, and I would visualize being able to do things, and I didn't know, one of my favorite scriptures now is call the things that are not as though they are. And I didn't realize, but I was trying to do that back then. I was trying to, like,
you didn't know you were doing that then. Right. But that's what you were doing.
Yes, because God's word comes through.
I love that.
And the kids were little, and I always had on Joyce Meyer. I mean, I've listened to Joyce Meyer for as long as I can remember. And I'm telling you, if I could ever recommend a book to anybody, it's Battlefield of the Mind.
Yes.
I'm on my fourth or fifth time reading it right now. I'm currently reading it because you have to you just have to keep that going. Yes. And so,
because it's like you said, and I think sometimes people can look at people in ministry, and especially like you and Pastor, and like your kids are great. Everything seems so great. Although anybody who knows anything is going to know there's things going on behind the scenes at times, but like, and think that there's no struggle there, or that it's a one and done, like you said, like, and it's not. There wasn't like March 12th of 2001, I was free.
Right.
You gave God your life and your time and your surrender. This is what I'm hearing you saying.
Yes.
And you let him, and you continue to let him.
Yes. I just continued on. And I mean, I know so much more now that I do now. Like I can give you steps now, but I didn't have steps back then. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't quit. I would worship the Lord. I prayed a lot. I'd cry out to God a lot, but I just really, I don't know, when
so good.
We started the church, I had a really good friend, and I could tell her anything. and she wouldn't judge me, and she didn't try to fix me. And I felt safe with her. And it wasn't like she was speaking God's word into me, whatever. Right. But it was just nice to have a friend to do that. Yeah. And then, now I could sit down with you and I can tell you things that would help you go walk through things.
Yep.
But I wish I could say that I had a plan back then. But I look back and I'm like, how the Lord had us, two young people, start a church. And I had so much brokenness. We just had willing hearts. And so my heart's always been willing and tender towards the Lord. And I love him and I want more of him. And when I found out there really was more of him than what I had grown up knowing, because I had my salvation, I knew I was going to heaven, but I wasn't walking in victory. I didn't have the abundant life. I wasn't having joy and peace. I was striving and stressing all the time. And so, I can maybe give you steps that if we want to go further on, like how to help people now.
I think you're giving them perfectly. You didn't quit.
Yes.
You worshiped God.
Yes.
And literally, like, now there are freedom steps. Now there are the books. Now there are the terms for all of the things.
There was no internet to look up anything.
There was no battlefield of the mind.
No.
There was you couldn't go YouTube, like, anxiety, worship music, right?
Yes.
Like, there weren't the guided prayers that we all have now. But you're like grassroots describing how to start walking in freedom.
Yes.
And I think, honestly, this is going to take, you constantly have done this for me in my life, but I think for other people to hear it too, like, it takes the pressure off of, like, the moment. I think sometimes we can get so obsessed with, like, if I don't get the moment, then I'm not free. If I don't get the moment, then I'm not this.
Right.
If I don't have the feelings, if I didn't get the goosebumps, if the moment, and it's like, God's not the longer I walk with him, he is a moment God, absolutely.
Yes.
But he's also, I think how Eugene Peterson described it was like a pilgrimage God. It's also a process.
Oh.
We're travelers on the journey.
Yep. He changes us from glory to glory to glory to glory. I'm like, where's all the glory? But
I'm ready for the next glory, Lord.
Yes. He doesn't give up on us.
Yes. And you didn't give up because one moment didn't work or one prayer didn't work.
I gave up, but I started over.
There it is. That's it. Yes. And you know I've given up. She knows all the times I've given up. I just love the realness of it. That, like, for just people to know, like, sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is not quit.
Yes. Yes. Just showing up is half the battle. Yes. Yes.
Day after day, walking with God. And you worship and you got the word in you.
Yes.
Before there were steps, before there were victory plans, before there were all the books that we have, you just got the word and worship in you. Oh, that's just like gifts to me.
And now, I'm still doing it now, though. But I have made I make myself, I did not understand the power of the spoken word. And let me
talk about that.
Let me just tell you. I mean, my kids, my husband. I'm known as the word police, but you can't say that's killing me or I'm gonna have a heart attack or that makes me sick. I mean, like, we don't. That's like a cuss word. We don't do that because there is power in the spoken word. And so I started to use God's word to speak life. You can speak life or death. Yes. I started speaking life. I've made myself so many declarations. You can look at my phone. I have them on my phone. I have them printed out. I make myself voice memos that I do. I speak declarations and scriptures that I listen to for myself. You can
look at my text with you and see the declarations that she gives me. This is so true about you. This is who you are at your core.
Well, I want to encourage. I love. One of the spiritual gifts that I have is encouragement.
100%.
Mercy, encouragement. And there's nothing that brings me greater joy. And I'll tell you what else. It's just coming to my mind. Of if you are in a bad place, you are in pain, you are hurting, if you can get your mind off of yourself long enough to bless someone else, you are the one that gets blessed. And so that is one thing that I try to incorporate in my life in the darkest times, in the good times, everything is to look at others, to try to encourage others.
Could not be more true of your life. You have done this.
Lord, I wake up, who can I encourage?
You find people in Ross, Marshalls.
Oh, yes.
You'll do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Not just me, who we're close. Not just me. Like, you look for it everywhere.
Yes. And I've hated the whole mask thing with COVID because it really has it's cut down on
spiritual gifts.
Yes, it's harder. People don't want to look and talk to you as much. But yes.
Because you've got a word for somebody.
Yes.
In your darkest times.
You cannot believe
you will find people.
The way that the Lord will open doors by encouraging. And my kids were little, we'd be talking because I told them don't talk to strangers, and we'd be walking and I would say,
you talk to strangers?
I love your hair. Oh, you're so cute. Or your child is so sweet, or whatever. And I would be talking to them and they'd say, we'd leave, Mommy, do you know that person? And I would say, no. Then why are you talking to them?
They're stranger policing you.
And I said, well, I thought something nice about them.
This is
and
great.
If I didn't say it, they wouldn't know it.
Oh.
And so we can
say that one more time.
Well,
you thought something nice about.
I thought something nice about them, something encouraging. It just, the Lord allows it to come. I could look at just about anybody. I can see something
I know you can.
good in them, nice in it, but I believe that's partially a gift, but partially it's practice. And I've asked the Lord to allow me to see that. And so I would say something to them and that would encourage them. And they would say, Mommy, do you know them? And I'd say, no. And then why are you talking to them? And I said, because if I didn't tell them what I was thinking, they would never know it. It wouldn't, the unspoken word doesn't encourage anybody.
Oh.
Your actions can encourage someone, your words can encourage, but just thinking something nice about them doesn't bless them. And so you have no idea when people, I could tell you story after story after story that the little thing that I said to them opened a door, like for salvation, for healing, for all kinds of things, only because I just encouraged them.
You said something.
Yes.
That you chose not to keep in your thoughts.
And it's so fun. It is it's
you
so
get high
fun
on it.
to it's you so fun to do that. Yes. Yes. It's really hard to stay depressed and down if you are encouraging somebody else because your mind is off of yourself. And there's times the Lord say, I can't make something happen for myself, but he can use me to make it happen for somebody else. So if I make it happen for them, he's told me I'll take care of you. And so, God comes through. He's so faithful.
So
even
amazing.
when we're ignorant, we don't know what we're doing. When we're in sin, when we willfully choose things, when or
when we're just in bondage that wasn't willful, but yet we're stuck.
Yes,
he is,
and we have no clue. He still loves us. And the enemy doesn't want you to think that. He wants you to feel that you're always going to be a certain way. You will never be this. You will never be that. You'll always, those terms are just from the enemy. He wants you to live a life full of regret. Yep.
You're right.
Yes.
You're the only one that thinks these things.
Yes.
You're
He's a liar, liar, pants on fire. That's right. And he just wants to keep you down.
Yeah.
He just steal, kill, and destroy. He will do whatever he can. And he studies us. And he knows our weaknesses.
Yep, he knows our weak spots.
Yep.
And he'll play on them.
Yes, he will.
Okay, I want to keep the words of life theme.
Okay.
But take it now to marriage and kids.
Okay.
So you and Pastor, you get married and talk. I mean, we could do 5 hours of marriage wisdom from you. But tell me some of your journeys with marrying somebody completely different than you.
Yes.
But you two are the most happy, most in love people. And that's not because, and what I love about y'all's marriage is that you don't pretend that you're the most happy and the most in love people. And that's what I love about it is because you genuinely are so raw. And from what I'm hearing you saying, some of that is because you never had that. It modeled to you.
Right.
And so you and Pastor Steve are just so raw, so real with anybody who asks you anything. But you love him to
oh my goodness,
death.
I still get excited when his truck comes up. Miley and I are both. She runs to the door,
Miley's
and
their
I
dog,
run
y'all.
to the door. I mean, seriously, I still
the most
I've still got it for him, and he still got it for me. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord, he was as healthy as he was, and so I could look at him and. He had peace, except maybe when he was struggling with me. But I mean, I would see peace in his life, and he loved his life, and he loved what he did, and he loved people. He was happy-go-lucky. I was always drawn to that fun, happy-go-lucky. And even though our personalities are very different, I'm very, very thoughtful and detailed, and he's more spontaneous, and doesn't plan and those kind of things. but our core values are the same. We both we love the Lord. When we said I do, we meant it.
Yeah.
We were committed. We were not going to quit, and I just loved him hard. I love my kids hard. I love him hard. I mean,
You love me hard.
Yes, I'm very loyal.
You are.
I'm very loyal.
You really are.
And so, I think back at some of the times, like when we started the church. When we
for
started,
people don't know, you and Pastor started the church 28
years ago. Yes,
28 years ago.
Yes,
with like a group of 5 people.
Well, we started just the 2 of us.
Wait. Stephen was here though, right? Was it the 3?
No. Well, when we initially left, we started the church. Literally, we had a vision, but we had no people, no place,
no money,
no,
and no Stephen even yet.
No,
Stephen's their firstborn. Everyone.
No,
okay,
he wasn't even.
Oh my goodness!
I was pregnant with our very first service. I was pregnant with him.
Okay,
it was Easter.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it would have been he is 26, but whenever we started the church, we've been married almost 32 years. And we started the church 28 years ago. But literally, we were just 2 people willing to say yes.
Yeah.
But it's challenging when you have no money.
I've never done it. I have no idea how to start a church.
And then we're trying to meet people and start this church going. And
I can't imagine.
It was lean times. It was challenging. It was pressure. I wanted my children to have things that other children have. And they didn't really realize.
Other children did have that you didn't. Yeah.
They didn't really realize what a struggle things were, I mean, I don't know what comes to my mind. I was a friend. I walked with her at the mall. We would walk our kids when they were little, and she would say, "Oh, you want something to eat? Want to get something to drink?" I'm like, "No, I'm good, whatever." I mean, I didn't have 50 cents in my wallet to get anything, but God always provided for us, And so I just look back, I can just see the grace of God on my life from birth to where I am now. And I'm so blessed. Yeah. I'm so blessed. I mean, the hard times, the challenges have made me who I am. They've made me have a more compassionate heart for people, to look out for people. Yeah. But I do think, for women and anybody, comparison, we look at somebody and we think they have the life. They have it all together. Yeah. They have people. I know people look at us and they would say, "I'd love to have a marriage like them," or they have it all going on or whatever. Right. It's so not true.
Yeah, everybody hear it here. You've heard it here.
The enemy always wants to make the grass look greener on the other side. But we have one life.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that happen may not be good, but the way we choose to handle it, the way we choose to move forward is a big thing. And we have to forgive. We have to move forward. We have to love, extend forgiveness over and over again, especially in marriage, because, the things that you loved about him in the beginning become the things that, you want to change. You're like,
100%.
Why do I want to change that? I loved that about you in the beginning, and now I want to change it.
I loved Dustin's passion. Yeah. Oh, he's the most intense, passionate person. Don't bring that into my house anymore. Yeah.
Can you chill a little?
Check it at the garage. But it's so true. Like, what we're drawn to, drives you crazy.
Well, I can say, honestly, I believe the Lord really used Steve to provide a setting and a place for me to be healed. And him loving me and not quitting. And I'm sure there were so many times that I broke his heart and I could say things that I know hurt him, and he didn't lash back at me.
Really?
He just, he was good to me. He loved me. He's not perfect. I don't want him to get the big head if he's listening to this.
Shout out, Pastor.
But he's perfect for me. He really is. He's so humble. He never makes it about himself. He always prayed for me. He's always stood by me, and I've been a good helpmate to him. I want him to succeed. He wants me to succeed. I would kind of grieve in some ways about the family. It wasn't the way I wanted it to be. And he would always say, "Honey, this is a new legacy. We're making we're making our family. God's given us this opportunity. It is a new legacy. This is your dream." But make sure that we kept each other a priority. We never let our kids be more important than the other person. We taught our children early on, mommy and daddy, we love you, but mommy and daddy, and we're important to each other. So we made that time for each other. He would come home and the kids would want to jump all over it, and we would say, "This is mommy and daddy time." I mean, we taught them early on, and they saw us. We hugged and kissed and laughed and danced and had fun. And there'd be times they'd be like, it's so gross. But I know it made them feel secure to see that their parents loved each other. And we do love each other. We still have just as much fun as we did back then. I thought I loved Steve when I got married. I had no clue what love was until now. I mean, and it just gets better and better and better. And going through the times with somebody through hard times is when you really... You go through tough times and you are together. And he was so good to be a family dad, to a family man. He came to their games. We made things a priority for our children. But they always heard us talk about the Lord. They never heard us talk about people or situations in the church. We let the children be children so they didn't have adult problems.
It's so easy, I think, when kids are just running around to be like in front of them while they're running and playing with their little ears out, being like, Dustin and I could just be like, so-and-so and this and this and this. And we don't do it. We don't do it because they don't deserve our problems.
They will pick up on that. They're so smart. They can pick up on the environment of just what it feels like in the home.
Yes.
If you have a home of peace, they can be free and be childlike. But if you're always, which my kids did, they saw me very stressed out.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
But we tried not to fight in front of him. They would see us, hear us disagree about something. But we didn't talk about things in front of them. We only talked positively about each other. We always told them that we agree on the same thing. Don't be going to one and playing us against the other. Because mommy and daddy agree on things. Once again, God's grace. You ask the Lord to come through for you on challenging times, heartache times, and he always comes through, and he can redeem a situation like nobody. I mean, he can redeem things that you think are dead and gone or unredeemable or it can't be restored.
What stories in your mind right now?
Well, I think about, I was just thinking about that. I was thinking last night because I knew we were going to be talking. I was thinking about growing up and, when I started being a parent, I didn't really know how to parent, and I still had, I think, a lot of fear. I had Stephen, he was first, but Stephen was a leader. We knew he was going to be a leader and so I'm talking like Tommy's kindergarten, 6 years old. He was trying to lead me, and I started thinking,
he knew better than you. Yeah.
Yeah, we just bumped heads. We just on so many things. And I was thinking about, it's like, why? I felt the Lord just gave me even a revelation last night that some of the things that probably we bumped heads, I was probably trying to control him because of fear. I wanted to control, and I didn't want him to go through things that I went through. I didn't want him to make the mistakes. Probably a lot of my things, and he didn't want to be controlled. Nobody wants to be controlled. But when you're a leader, you're like, no, thank you. And so we just had, he always knew I loved him, but we had a really challenging time. I mean, I tried to homeschool for a while, and that was not pretty. I did it, but it wasn't pretty. And I can remember and I could see that he had a great relationship with Steve because they hunted together, they fished together, they, did all these things. And I'm the responsible one. Do your homework, clean your room, taking in places, doing those things that a mom is asking you to do. Clean your room. Yeah. The things that are not so glamorous, not so fun. I'm not the fun one. I'm the responsible one.
You're not out hunting with them. Yeah.
And my heart began, the older he got, I realizing he's growing up and he's going to, and I remember it was so challenging. I remember being at a friend's house. This is how, just if to give anybody hope, he was 16 and I knew he was funny, but he was saying things. And he was so funny. And I did not realize how funny he was because I just felt like it was just so challenging. And so my heart,
you overlooked that part of him.
Yeah,
in the midst
felt
of
like
the challenge.
I just was dealing with all the challenges, and he did go through some rebellious things,
yes.
and
which are great stories for us all now.
And of course, I never gave up. I was praying.
Of course, you didn't.
Praying over him, praying his friends away. I mean,
that's what we're going to go there next.
Praying.
We're going there. yeah.
But I remember he's going to be a junior, and I'm thinking he's going to go off to college, and I see this great relationship with Steve. And I'm like, he's going to go off to college. And the only time, of course, the enemy is lying to you too, because he always would tell me, you're the worst mother in the whole world. So I tell mothers all the time, oh, you can't be the worst mother in the whole world, because I was the worst mother. Because that's what the enemy always told me. I'd lay my head down, like, you're the worst mother. And he would go through
so true,
go through the list of the things that I did wrong.
I am.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I love that.
Here's everything you didn't do this day, and here's everything.
This is so great.
And I sweated some of the the little things. Oh my goodness. If I could, I sweated some of the stupidest little things in the world, that don't make any difference, but they seem so huge. Anyway, I realized he's growing up. He's going to go off to college. And I'm thinking, the only time I'm going to see him is when he comes back. And he's only going to come back is to see Steve, because he probably doesn't even really want to be with me. I mean, it's like, so I began. So
for every mom out there, because I think I know where the story is going, because I think I've heard it. For every mom out there listening, if you feel this way, Lisa felt this way when he was, what is he, 18, 17?
He was probably around between 16 and 17.
16 and 17.
But it was challenging.
And you felt like he didn't like you.
Oh, no, I'm trying.
Not at all.
I'm sure he loved me, but I'm sure we just
there's a big difference between the two. Yeah.
There was tension.
There was tension and a disconnect.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Just giving every single person hope, because I know where this story is going.
Not like, I mean, he knew I loved him. He knew he could count on me.
Yeah.
I was always there for him, but
for sure,
I wanted that relationship that I saw Steve have. Put it that way.
Yes,
and so I began to cry out to God. I'm like, God, you have got to redeem this relationship. You've got to, I don't want to, my son's going to leave and you can't get that time back. And I began to cry out to the Lord. I mean, cry out to the Lord.
And what does that look like for people who don't know? What does it look for you to cry out to the Lord?
I began to pour out my heart to him of the heartbreak that I felt of that Stephen's going to leave. And he's going to be gone, and I want this relationship with him, Lord. So I begin to declare things that we're going to have a great relationship. God's going to restore the years to us, that we are going to love each other. I just,
you did your words. Yep.
And I started declaring things.
You word policed yourself.
Instead of saying what I saw in him, I started declaring what he would be and what our relationship would be. And so I started to call the things that are not as though they were, as though I was seeing them right there. So I began to do that fervently. I mean, fervently. And I would talk to Steve about it. And so I decided, what am I going to do? I saw that they enjoyed football and they enjoyed playing baseball. They enjoyed fishing and hunting. I didn't do those things. So I looked at it. What does Stephen like to do? Stephen likes to eat. He likes to go out to eat. He likes to watch television shows. And so I would take him out to eat at times. I'd start watching a show together, and we would start watching shows together. By his senior year, he would have lunch where they could leave campus. And I made sure that the days that he was I made sure there were days he came home. I was there and I had a meal waiting for him, or we would go out to eat. We would watch TV, and we began to just laugh and enjoy each other. And I'm telling you now, when he went off, my heart was
remember this week.
It was just so broken because God had redeemed so much. And I was like, it's so hard to let him go because
you were genuinely have become best friends.
There was a love there now. There was a fun there. And I'm like, I hated to see him go because I'm like, I felt like we just really got this going. And what is amazing to me is when he went off as a freshman, you kind of think, well, you're going to let him go and do. Stephen called us like literally every day and just to tell us things. And to this day, all three of our kids call us like every day,
Yep.
just about literally every day. I can get
Yeah.
them back to back to back
Yep.
in the row,
Yeah.
But when God redeemed it, he just went so beyond that. And so Stephen was a challenge, but I can tell you honestly, he is a dream son.
Yeah.
He's the son that every mother would dream
Oh,
of.
he's the absolute best. I want him
I
to
could
mentor
go through
my
all
children.
my children
Yeah.
and just, I mean, but
Yeah.
God so
Yeah.
redeemed it. And I would declare things over him. And Stephen loves the Lord. Hannah loves the Lord.
Yes,
Sarah loves the Lord.
Yeah.
They serve the Lord. I declared over that they would marry people that would love the Lord. They would serve God with all their hearts. They would have a hunger for him, that they have the mind of Christ. I pray things over them still every single day.
You don't even have to read it. You organically are just spouting it out because it's so in you.
Yes. And
fervently, the word you said, fervently, it was just so in you. Okay, I want to go back to one thing you said though, about you and Stephen, because I think this is so important for like me being we're not even preteen yet, but I think for people who are spiritually minded, it can be this thing when our kids are starting to fade from our, fade from proximity, or we're feeling the disconnect, or we can sense that they're maybe going down a bad path or whatever. We can sometimes come in with like the spiritual card, right? And just be like, and for you, I love that in your, wherever it was, in your closet, in your room, and you were fervently crying out and declaring. But to Stephen, you were cooking food and watching TV.
Yes.
And I love that point. It's the practical and the spiritual. And I think that is like some of the best parenting wisdom I could hear, is like, we do our part in the spirit, but don't neglect the practical. So, okay, my kids love Ryan's toy review. Watch it with them. They're over Ryan's toy review now, but they're into this soccer, Sparky soccer or something. I'm like, even hearing you talk about these things, I'm like, I need to just lay down and watch, because we'll all lay in bed at night when Dustin's here at the church late for something, usually talking to your husband till 11 p.m. On Wednesday nights. But we'll lay in bed at night, but I'll have my own thing going on my phone. And they'll have their iPad watching their soccer show. And even hearing you talk now, I'm like, Jamie, start that now. Watch the show with them. Laugh with them at what they think is funny. And then do the things in the spirit on my own. And obviously we pray together at night and we have worship music going. But I just love that you had the wisdom to not just pray, but also connect practically with a teenager who needed it at the time.
I think they just want to be loved.
Yeah.
And they want to get off of that pot, us being like the potter trying to mold them all the time. Like we want our Heavenly Father to love us the way we are. I'm not saying don't correct and don't have guidelines.
Of course not. You guys took his door off at some point.
Yeah. We got desperate. It was our last resort.
Stephen, we're calling you out right now.
Took his door off. We were desperate.
Took his door off at some point. So it's not like you didn't give guidance.
Right. But at some point, all you're going to have left is relationship.
Oh.
And you cannot look at everything. I can remember, and I guess we're talking a lot about Stephen, but I can remember he would always leave his wet towels. He left every light on. And I can remember that all my kids graduated. Well, not all of them. Sarah, we were smart enough to keep, because I have 3 July children. And the first 2 graduated at 17.
What does the pastor always say? October's a good month for him?
October's his favorite month, yes. But
anyway, Sarah.
The first 2 graduate early, and I'm like, why did we do that? Now I'm going to have them even less time. And, God even redeemed that. Stephen ended up coming back home, graduated early from college and came back home, and he lived with us until he got married. And, he would still leave all his wet towels, leave the lights on, everything. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to go in, and I probably get emotional, but I remember going, the closer he got to getting married, I'm not saying a word. I'm turning these lights off. I'm picking these things up, because I'm going to look back and I'm not going to be turning any lights off anymore. Nope. And it goes quickly.
Yeah.
And so I find for me, like I'm always, like you always as a mother and everything you have going on, you have so many things that you can be doing. You have so many and I'm trying to be a pastor's wife and a mom and a wife and everything. They grow up quicker than you think. We always hear that. And when you're in the throes of it, especially when they're little and you're exhausted or when they're super challenging at times, you think, oh my goodness. But it does, at one point, you will become an empty nester, and I want to, and I'm just telling you, every season gets better. Every season gets better.
I love that you and Pastor have always told us that, because I grieved when Jude teethed. And I remember you and Pastor talking to us and being like, no, trust us. Every single season is better.
Yes.
Which is like.
It's still getting better.
Oh.
It's still getting better. I look now like, my kids are going to get married.
You got a new grandbaby on the way.
Yes,
that's public,
Hannah's going to have a baby, and I have two. I'm a noni. I have Slade and Lindley, and
Noni.
I just remember that, whenever the son gets married, it could be a tendency for them just to go just with the wife's family, kind of move along that way. Mm-hmm. But, with Steve's family, he had 4 sisters. He's the only boy. I never wanted his mother to be left out on our side. So we were always a part of that as well.
You sowed good seeds.
I believe a lot of it was sowing as well. Mm-hmm. And we're a close-knit family, but, I didn't know what it's going to be like. I wanted to be a good mother-in-law. I wanted to stay out of their business. I wanted to love them well, and I thought, when he got married, it's like, I'm no longer for sure the number one woman in his wife, but it's just better and better. And watching them live their dreams, having their children, having their own home, celebrating the things with them. Now I have a whole nother level of praying. I've got grandkids now to pray for.
Now you're doubling down on all the...
I start off every morning and I go through my whole list of every morning. Every morning I start off the same way.
What is it?
Well, before I get out of bed, I'll say, Lord, I thank you for the day. And I just, right now, in Jesus' name, I put on the full armor of God over me and over all of my family. I declare the blood of Jesus. And I'll say over Steve, over Stephen, over Kenzie, over Lindley, over Slade, over Hannah, over Kevin, over the new baby, over Sarah. Lord, I thank you that your angels surround them, protect them, and keep them safe. Lord, I thank you that no weapon formed against them will prosper. Thank you for favor in their lives, Lord. I thank you in specific things that they have going on. I'll pray for. Yep. But I just go through the whole thing, and Lord, I just thank you that you go with them everywhere they go. I thank you that they love you. They're going to have a hunger for your word, that they're going to be used mightily in the kingdom of God, Lord. I thank you for the plan on their life. I thank you that for whatever, if they need healing, whatever it is, I go into it. But I do the same thing.
Or you brush your teeth in the morning.
I do it when my eyes open. I begin to pray right then and there.
I need to start doing. I don't do that. I love that. I'm going to start doing that too. Just declaring things over the family.
Oh my goodness!
Before I even hop out of bed.
I have my list, and when I was too tired, when especially, I think it's good to make your own list of what you need, or at least have something. Yep. Because when you're beat down and you're exhausted and you're in pain or you're struggling, you can at least just get your list out and declare the word of God.
At the
when
least,
you can't think of anything.
This is so good.
Like I said, I have the declarations on my phone. I take pictures of things. I have voice memos. I keep journals. I pour out my heart to the Lord on things because I think, I'll remember that, but I won't. And I have, even on my phone right now, I have a list of 2 different separate things on my journal where I'm writing down the blessings from the Lord, and then I'm writing down ways that we're able to sow. And I've been doing that for like 2.5 years. And I'll just go back and I'll just look at God's faithfulness. To remind myself that he's there. He never does anything the way I think he would do it.
Never. Of course not.
But he always comes through. Always.
If only it would be like we...
I would mess it up. If it was like I would have wanted it.
We would for sure.
It wouldn't turn out so well.
But you see it. As you journal it, you can look back and see the faithfulness of God.
Yes.
For those who don't know, Pastor Steve and Lisa transitioned the church over to us. How long?
8 years ago on
Easter. 8 years ago. They founded
Easter.
this church. It was Easter.
Yeah.
That's right.
Easter, 8 years ago. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So we're I don't know when this will come out, but we're recording this Easter week. So that's special.
Yeah.
So they decided to transition as the founding and lead senior, however you want to say it, pastors to us, their youth pastors who did who knows what. And how many years were we with you before that? 5?
I don't even.
Or 6?
How long have you been here now?
12 years?
12, so 4 years
4
before.
Okay, so not long.
4 years before.
not that long to give us your church.
But I can tell you that whenever we thought at some point, sometime we would transition the church, or we just kind of knew that.
Did you always really feel that?
I don't think the timing was not what I thought it would be, but I think we knew at some point if we ever gave the church over, after we met y'all and we heard Dustin, and even Steve said when he heard you the first time, he was like, he heard you speak on how to hear the voice of God. Oh. He said it was the best message he'd ever heard. Oh. And so when we met you guys, I mean, we prayed for 2 years for y'all to come. Yeah. We waited without a youth pastor for 2 years because the Lord just kept giving us confirmation that you're going to come. Yeah. And so we knew that we would transition at some point. It was just probably about 5 years earlier than I probably thought it was going to be.
And for people who don't know, like, it's a huge deal to found a church with your blood, sweat, tears. And
it's like a baby.
It's a baby.
It's like a family member.
It is. I have not done it, but I have seen what it's like to do it. And there are no words for the attachment, the emotions, the hardships, the victories, the joys, the people, all of it. It's just, it is like a baby. And so Pastor Steve and Lisa did that. And then 4 years into knowing us, they decided to transition it and talk me through that. Because this is a phenomenon to people. We talk to our pastor friends and they're like, I remember one of Dustin's friends being like, you better get things in writing because people go bad. Things go bad. It was like, well, you already said Pastor Steve is the most humble.
Yes, he is.
We always say he's the least egotistical person we know. Yes. He does not care about his own kingdom. Neither one of you. It's never.
He loves
it's
God
never
so
about your kingdom ever. You have never tried to build your own kingdom, and it's so rare and to be honored for generations to come. But talk through that transition.
Okay. That happened. Well, and I've never talked publicly about it.
Yeah. So this will be new for people.
I've said, mentioned a few things like it was hard or whatever, but I've had a lot of hard things in my life, and that was the hardest of everything. And we knew about it probably like a year before it ever happened.
It was a slow
going behind the scenes, just making things so it'd be a smooth transition. And when we were doing that, we didn't know if we were going to be staying, going, you know, Dustin would always say, no, stay. We want you to stay, stay. But we didn't know because we'd never seen that happen. And generally you would leave.
It does not happen.
You would leave so you can give the other person room to do whatever they want. And so I look back, I mean, my first concern, is like the kids, like, are they going to have a church? Oh, yeah. Will they have friends? What about our friends? Where are we going to go to church? These kind of things. And the way it happened, like I said, it happened earlier than I thought it would. And so it was so challenging for me because I think we did it at 20 years. And it was finally at the point at 20 years where we were getting paid regularly. Right. Things were growing.
Things were good.
There were like 3 and 4 services. Yep. And, I was very involved in ministry, and I wanted to start another ministry. And Steve said, you don't need to start anything else. You just kind of need to back out kind of, so that we can kind of fade back so that you guys can step forward. And so he was so busy doing all of this, talking it through, talking to people, making things right, that he would forget to tell me things. So there were so many things he thought I knew.
Dustin knew that you didn't know.
I didn't have a clue. I didn't know the time frame. And I'm the kind of person that when God will speak to me, whether, it's something I want or whatever, I'm going to get on God's, whatever he says, I'm going to get on it.
Yep.
But I feel like in so many ways, I didn't have a choice in any of the things that happen.
And you sacrificed to build this. You sacrificed to start it. You're in this too. Yeah.
It was just crazy. It was like, Lord, it's finally good. And now it's like, why would you take it away? And we'd bought the ground, and we were bought land and planning to build. And we'd been in this building, and I was like so excited about it. And the enemy would beat me up and just say, like, because I wanted to encourage, I wanted to share whatever. It's like, if you're not leading a church, then how are you going to, I mean, it's kind of like your ministry is over.
Wow.
And so to me, and it was a lot, anytime we go through, we're going through transitions all the time.
All the time.
I never thought about it as much until I do now. But if you're not in a transition, you will be in one.
Yep. It's coming for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's kind of like in a transition. It's a really a vulnerable place because you're not really in your future yet, but you're locked out of your past.
Oh,
and so you're just kind of
that makes my heart beat a little faster.
Yeah,
just thinking.
And so we're transitioning, and so here I am. I always wanted to be a mom.
Yep.
I love marriage. I love our church.
Mm-hmm.
And here Stephen's about to go off to college. Then I know Hannah's going. I know Sarah's going to go. I don't know. We know that we're going to move. We decide that we're going to move because we're going to have Sarah go to another school. We don't know where we're moving. We don't know if we're going to go to church. I can't do ministry. Steve had a role. He's a founding pastor, whatever.
Yep.
I didn't know what my role was. And it already I was the pastor's wife. So you're kind of a little bit by yourself because you can't share things with your life like you want to. And
you didn't have a Lisa like I do. Yeah.
I'm glad that
you didn't have you. Like I can. Yeah.
And so I didn't, and I literally, I became very hopeless, depressed. And I was never unhappy that you guys had the church.
Oh, no.
And I always wanted to encourage you.
You did. No, our relationship was, and that could be a whole nother podcast in itself, how to go through your own disappointments with things and still keep wonderful relationships. You were a perfect 10 at it. But
I don't know about that. But it just felt like everything felt like lost to me.
Yes, yeah.
And honestly, my identity was up in that. And I was my identity in being a mom and being a pastor's wife.
It all comes crashing down. And
everything was gone. And I didn't have anybody to really talk to. And it became such a source of contention between Steve and me because he knew he hurt me. When I talk, it would hurt him. That I couldn't really talk to him about it much anymore. And so I was just, it was probably the deepest, darkest, most painful time of my life. Now God has come through and I couldn't be happier that we're in the place we are. And y'all are doing a phenomenal job. The church has done amazing. The growth, the way you love people, the way you pastor people. But I literally didn't I'm like, should I not even stand there and hug people? Should I not? I literally didn't know what to do because I wanted to be out of the way, but I also wanted to still love people. And that's really when I'm telling you
this is so real.
My encouragement in ministry became in the stores. Unintentionally, people said things that were hurtful, I mean, I can
only imagine.
You used to be our favorite, but now they're our favorite. Just things that would hurtful or like nobody knows who you are. Just things that fed into me.
Didn't you get asked at the doors one time if you were new?
Probably.
I think so. And
probably.
Which that's nobody's bad here. And that's what I love about you. You never put it on somebody else as doing something wrong, but you still identify what's going on inside of you, that this is painful.
I would get up before I'd come to church sometimes on Sunday mornings, and I would be listening to 3 different podcasts and worship, and I would look for somebody that I could encourage. And I would look for the lonely person, and I would look to make sure that people felt welcomed and that they would get connected. And I just tried to continue to do encouragement,
what you
reach out.
Yep.
That's the way that, and not quitting and crying out to God, and finally realizing, I worshiped, I listened to the word. I made my declarations. I stood on his promises. I declared that he had good plans for my life. And I had to come. I think the Lord was also stripping things from me because he didn't want my identity in what I did. He wants my identity in who I am.
That's
and
so good.
Realizing that whether I was the lead pastor's wife, the founding pastor's wife, no pastor's wife, the same call that he put on my life was still there. But the enemy
is so good.
He lied to me so much, and he just said, it's over.
Without that, it's not.
Without that, you have no place to minister you. And all I ever wanted to do was help people, be a blessing to people, encourage people. And I literally thought, so when all you do is see that you can't see a future for anything, your kids are leaving, your whole purpose that you've seen, that you've lived for all these years, for over 20 years is no longer going to be there. What do you do? And so once again, I find myself coming back to the Lord, and I have to give him my mess and give him my strongholds and give him my insecurities and give him my hopes and my dreams, cry out my heart to him. There were times that he was literally all I had. And I would picture him holding my right hand, and I would cry with him, and I would literally, a memory would come up, and I would like put it in my hands or pain, and I would like lift it up to him, and I'd picture him taking it from my hand, and I would just pray. And then I would replace those lies with truth. And so I was like, those lies that the enemy had told me, and the self-pity parties, and that, if you don't do this, you're not special, or if you don't perform whatever. So I would go in, and I was gradually getting a truth from the Word of God, and I would identify the lie, and I would replace it with the truth. And so I would just continue to renew my mind. To this day, I mean,
there it is.
There's still stuff there. I mean, we all have stuff that we want to get.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't have it all together. Thank the Lord, I'm not like where I was. I'm not even the same person I was when we got married.
Yeah.
I'm a work in progress, but God still has a plan for my life, whether I was here or not. I'm so thankful that he allowed us to stay. We love being here. We love being a part. We love the church. We wanted to have a church. When we started the church, we wanted a church where we wanted to go.
Yeah.
And we love this church, and we love the people here, and we're willing to do whatever God says. I'm thankful that he allowed us to stay and that we have such a great relationship. We've never had competition between any of us. We've always honored each other and loved each other. I know the best days are yet to come. They really in the church, in my life, my children's lives, in my marriage. He doesn't waste our pain. Yep. He doesn't waste what we go through. He wants to use it for his glory. And if there's anything good that comes from my life, it's only him, because, it says our hearts are deceitfully wicked. And without the Lord coming in and doing anything in my life, I would just still be this broken mess. But God's a God of redemption. He redeems it. He
does. Yes, he does.
He makes miracles out of messes, and he always comes through.
Yep. Y'all just got Lisa and I super real. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I love you. I honor
love you too.
Grateful for you. And hey, we've got valleys ahead. We've got mountains ahead. Glad we're in them together.
Yes, that's the truth. And God's there with us.
And God's there with us.
And he is faithful.
The 5 of us, we're going to be just fine. I love you.
I love you too.
Oh, man.